Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Monday. Want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as season. I got a word for you. Tap in. Happy Monday, guys. Want to talk to you guys about a couple of downloads. To those of you who are still feeling stagnant, you feel like you're not moving at all, you feel like God just went silent on you. Go back to your to-do list of the things that God required you to do. There is a checklist of things that you were given to do. Some of those things you may have already completed. In fact, you may have most completed. But there's a couple of things that some of you, one of you, including myself, have not completed. So what happens a lot of times is we start asking God for what's next, and then it's almost like God is convicting us, like you're asking for what's next, but you haven't completed that thing, because that is the thing that whatever that's kind of hanging over your head, you don't really feel motivated to do it. So you're kind of procrastinating and kind of letting that particular thing fall, where you're kind of doing the things that are more easier, things that are more. So go back and ask God for grace to complete the areas, the one thing, the 2, 3, 4, 5 on that to-do list that He gave you that you have not completed before He opens certain doors. And that's to those of you, again, who are feeling kind of stuck and stagnant. Next, I want to speak about, what else was it? I want to speak about you must, all caps, must pass this test, but I think I'm going to keep that. It was something else I wanted to speak about. Oh, that's what it was. It's Monday, and I'm not with it this morning. I'm just going to keep it real, right? But I'm here. That last offense. Some of you are experiencing that last offense, meaning that person, that place, or that thing you've been warning and warning and warning, or you've been feeling a desire to pull away. They've been playing up in your face all kind of way. It's almost like when you bring certain things to their attention, they just kind of ignore it. They're crossing boundaries, things like that. Almost that they feel like you will always be there. That type of feeling, like, because as chosen people, typically we don't give up on people easily. It just depends on the offense, but we don't give up on people easily. And so what happens is many times people get comfortable and then they start trying you because they feel like, well, you've said that last time, or I've done that and you never left, or whatever. But some of you will experience that was the last offense. And you know it in your spirit, because you know this is it. Like you just straight cap this. Thank you. This is completely it. It's a done deal. To those of you who know it, but your flesh will start pulling at you, let it be from an empathic way. My empaths tap in, and you feel like, oh, but I don't want to hurt their feelings. Oh, I don't want to be a bad person. Oh, how would they do it without me? Oh, listen. People will be just fine without you. You are not God. Many times we want to play God in people's lives, but we are not God. And what's going to tie into my next subject of you must pass this test is sometimes we get in God's way. Sometimes God, let me just go ahead and hop over into that side. But really quickly, don't allow your fleshly ways, your empathic heart, right? Your big, beautiful spirit to have you crossing lines that God has put an exclamation mark on. You got to be very, very careful when it comes down to obedience. When God is requiring you to move a person, He will start convicting you long before that offense would happen, and you'll kind of overlook certain things, but it still kind of lingers in your spirit a little bit, and then He'll let something else happen, and then that thing becomes more and more profound, and you get to a point where it's just like, this is the last offense. But again, don't let your flesh get you in trouble, because you can't release the things that God is calling you to release, even though you know that you know that you know God is saying it's time to release it. So let's hop really quickly into you must pass this test. So this is piggybacking off of an email that I replied to sometime this weekend or earlier last week. Okay, I like to talk about 3 different seasons: the isolation, the transformation, and due season. So basically, isolation, you answer the call. God tapped you, you answer the call. Many times you don't even know what that all that entails. You just know that God tapped you and you're following this voice, the conviction of the Spirit, and God is leading you, and then you end up into boom, a transformation season. Because first He isolates you in order to cut off all your distractions. In the isolation season, that first season when you first hear the voice of God tap you and say, hey, come this way. And most times you don't know what you're signing up for. I would say all times, but I guess there's always exception to the rules. You don't know what's all entailed, because if you really knew, you would reject that call. You would reject that voice. So I think God gives us bits and pieces of it, right? You get bits and pieces of it. And then at some point you will see the whole overall picture. But right now I'm speaking about the people who you're new in this thing, and it's kind of like you just answered the call, or you may be stuck in isolation season yet. You haven't even made it to transformation season. You're stuck in isolation season, and you feel like you are literally trying to keep your head above water every single day. In fact, every single second, because you don't know what God is doing. He tapped you, you answer. Now, all of a sudden, all hell has literally broken loose. You probably lost your job. You lost all your friends. Whoever you've been dealing with, you lost that person. That could have been a husband, a wife, just a boo thing, whoever. Like, everything has just dropped off. You're probably broke. You probably don't have a car. Like, this is the worst of the worst of the worst you've ever been. But most importantly, what makes it most difficult is you don't know what God is doing. It's one thing if God starts snatching things and then He gives you a vision, like the full vision. He might give you bits and pieces of it, but like if He give you like the full vision, then it will all make sense and it will make it more easier to submit. But many times you don't even know where God is taking you, and it's just like, it feels like punishment. So a lot of the times what we think is punishment is really not punishment, but don't get it twisted, right? God is love, but don't get it twisted. You can get those edges snatched. Trust me when I tell you. But many a times which is the wrath of God basically, but many times it's more about God preparing you for the transformation season. But what we do is we keep hanging on and clinging on like wild cats, trying to stay from the very place that God is pulling us from the mindsets that He's pulling us from. So because it's so unsafe, especially if you've dealt with traumas before, because with traumas, you got to control the environment in order to feel safe. So if somebody snatched your rug from under you, you don't feel safe. So your traumas automatically have you in fight or flight. But this is truly a process of surrender. Hence, process of surrender. So it's like versus swimming against the wave, right? The goal is to swim with it. But of course, again, that's the whole process. That you get to the point that you realize that no matter what you do, once you mess around and answer that call, nothing, all caps, nothing that you do yourself will work. You can fight all you want. There's nothing, you can't even go back if you wanted to. And you will try, because it's easier to go back. Because even though back may be toxic, back may be low frequency, back may be this, but back is comfortable. Because you can kind of control that environment. The goal is to get you so still by removing all those distractions. You don't have a job. Your phone probably off. You might be at the library right now listening to this. Whew, child. The goal is to get you so The goal is to keep you from distractions. So that's the whole point. See, when you start losing that stuff, again, it feels like punishment, because it's like, well, why would God, have me lose my job? And why would God want me to be out here struggling? That's how we see it, right? His ways are not our ways. So that the whole point is to remove the people, places, and things, is to get you to a posture where you're not so distracted. Keep it real. We're so distracted right now with like social media, just life. Life itself is a big distraction. Like if I had it my way, I would live in a treehouse with nothing but, I was going to say insects, but I lied, but nothing but animal. Like life itself is so distracting. When God had you in the isolation season, God will make it where people won't even help you. You'll be reaching out to people for help, and he will allow the people, he will either, like, okay, for myself, right? I'll feel a conviction not to help a certain person, and he'll make it clear to me, I don't want you to help this person. And it's a struggle because I'm just such a helper. I don't want you to help this person, and I don't have to tell you why. But more than likely, I know that I'm getting in his way. See, he has to get all of us on our face at a certain time. So he will literally clip you up to the point where you have nobody to call on but him. And I used to be in my feelings about that. Like I used to side eye some of my friends because they wouldn't answer the phone, or they could have had their own stuff going on. And I used to be in my feelings about that, right? But now I know that God had to create that moment where there was nobody who could, because let me tell you, when it comes down to destiny, where he's preparing you for, there is nobody else who can give you what God is trying to give you. They don't know what your destiny is. In fact, if they answer the phone, they're going to give you the wrong answer. They're going to probably tell you to go back to that ex, right? They're going to say, oh, God didn't tell you to leave that job. God didn't tell you to relocate. So he's removing people so you can get so still where you can hear. The point is, we keep fighting against the current that we're creating this chaos and we can't even hear God. God is literally trying to give you one answer, but we won't be still because we're fighting like wild cats because you just need to survive. But in these seasons, God will literally provide for you every single day. The problem in these seasons, sometimes God won't come through until the last minute, the last second. Like you're already in fight or flight mode. You're already in survivor mode. And it's just like, well, Lord, I'm trying to do the right thing here. And like, where you at? Where you at? Where you at? But he's pressing you. He's pressing your back against the wall to see what you going to do, boo. You going to trust me, or you going back to that temptation? You going to trust me? Or you like, are you going to trust the fact that I'm trying to take you higher and I'm trying to give you a life that only some people can dream about? Or are you going to just be a straight simp and fall into the temptation? What you going to do? And so when he have you against the wall like that, the convictions will be so profound. Like there's no denying it. Because, with some things you feel like, well, can I do that? Can I not do that? Like, is it God? Is it not God? I don't think God would be too mad about this. But with these type of situations, it's almost like he's sitting, you can feel his spirit sitting right on your shoulders. What are you going to do? And the enemy is on the other shoulder telling you, you fool, you better go, you need to do this, you better do this, you're going to keep trusting God. If that's God, why he got you in this situation, right? So it's like you got two, but the conviction will be so profound that you know God is telling you, don't try him. If you pass that test, even if it's the last minute, I've said this before, like as a example, let's just say your lights are due to be cut off at 5 p.m. They've sent you the disconnect notice, bold red print, and these people are coming today at 5 p.m. exactly. You don't have a job. You can't borrow no money. Like, the people you want to borrow money from, God I told you to cut these folks off. You can't even call them. You can't even call them. And all of a sudden now it's like 4:30. You're sweating. And now the enemy is telling you, go call that ex who God told you better not even think about going back to, right? But you know this ex always have your back, and God is like, if you now it's 4:50, and God still ain't come through. All you know is that the people is on this way. Listen, God will push you against the wall like that till you're sweating bullets just to develop and build your faith and your trust. And now it's 4:59. God still ain't come through. So you think, but you trusted and you didn't call that ex, or you didn't go back and sell that weed or whatever you had going on, sir. Right? You didn't touch it. You just want to keep your hands clean. Now these folks, they're on the way to your house to shut off your lights, and they got a flat tire. God done blew the whole engine. They can't even make it to you. Can't even make it to you. So it's like, so see, you think it's coming from one way. You think it's going to come from the friend or the ex or whoever. You think that's how, see, we keep thinking one way. His ways are not our ways. Where God handled that on the back end. The people engine blew. And it's Friday, so they can't even come to you on the weekend, right? And God just send that money to you the way you least expected, actually. Somebody just come up and bless you with a seed. And now you have your money. So it's all about building the trust and the faith. Whatever the test is, because he's going to tell you once you get still, he's going to tell you, don't go back to that ex. He's going to tell you, I let them fire you from that job, and do not go back and try to get that job back. You may be wanting to, like, I need to go and explain myself, because that God may convict you to say, don't go back, because it was never about them. So whatever because when he pull you from things, when you go back to try to touch it, whatever your thing is, because we all have our things, right? The conviction is going to be so profound. You can't even ignore it. You cannot ignore the convictions. The temptations are going to be amplified. Whatever that thing is, the temptation will be amplified. And this may not even be Satan, because everything ain't Satan, right? God will let some things just to test you, to really see how serious you are. You said you want to be the first millionaire in the family. You said you want to be a business owner. You said you're tired of working for people. You said you want a husband. You said you want to, like, you said all these things. But again, we assume that those things are just dropped into our laps, not understanding we have to go through a whole transformation season. In order to be prepared for the things that God has for us. So once you're out of that isolation season, right, and now you're entering your transformation season, there's a good chance the majority, if not all, you might have one or two, if that, people will come in that season. A lot of the times, once you leave your isolation season, God have already severed a lot of relationships, especially when it comes down to soul ties, narcissists, things like that. But that transformation season, you won't even have a lot of people either, because he's trying to, again, he needs your attention to transform you. This is the most, in my opinion, the most difficult season, because he has to get you raw, like to your core. So that means you're naked. He has to get you naked. All those security guards that you placed around your own self, let it be through trauma, through heartbreak, whatever you placed around yourself to protect yourself, including distractions. That can be weed, that can be alcohol, that can be sex, that can be porn, that can be food, that can be sweets, that can be anger, that can be wrath, that can be impatience. I'm raising my hand on that one, right? Impatience. Whatever you did to protect yourself, right? Offense. Just plug your thing in. I'm trying to think of some more things. Just plug your thing in. Whatever you've done, whatever your trauma have created, right? Not letting people in, right? Being so protected that you don't let people in. You got to be protected and guarded, that you guard it where you just don't let people into your life like that. But it still has to be, you still have to be discerning enough to know that you still have to have cracks for the right people to come in. So being guarded is fine. I think is wise, to be honest. But you still have to have that balance where you still have enough crack to let the right people in. So whatever barrier and security guards you placed around yourself, this is going to be the season where he starts tearing that stuff down. And I'm just using the word tear down, but this might be your longest season, truth be told, because in the isolation season, once you get the point that you realize you can cry, kick, and scream all you want, he's not going to let you go back. He's not bringing the people back. Like, once he snatches everything and you have no choice but to be still, then you that's when you get the message. Like, okay, you know what, Lord? At this point, like, I mean, I don't even have anything to fight with. So I'm going to just sit down somewhere and just please, right? That's exactly where he wants you at. So once you get that message, then you get switched over now to the transformation season. So you figure like, wow, I just came out of the most difficult season of my life, the isolation season. And here you are to the most difficult season of your life, which is the transformation season. He has to unprogram you, all the things that you were taught, unhealthy habits, from childhood, certain things you saw growing up, all those things he have to, is it unprogram or deprogram? I don't even know, but he have to strip all that stuff away from you. And in saying that, now he's going to bring you back. This is why a lot of people don't like to heal, because healing hurts, because in order to heal, you got to go back and feel, right? You got to go back and feel the trauma. You got to go back and feel the abuse. You got to go back and feel the rejection. You got to go back and feel the father wound, the mother, all that stuff. You got to sit into it. But mind you, he's already removed your mask and your vices. So you may feel like, well, I can go back and sit in this trauma, but I'm going to take me a shot of tequila. I'm going to go back and sit in this trauma because I'm convicted to do so, but I'm going to smoke me a blunt. You ain't taking none of that. You going to sit in this trauma and you going to sit in it raw. You got to feel it in order to expel it. This is why he will show you why you even have those guards up to begin with. Well, you're so guarded because all the women always thought you think you were all that. Chosen ones, tap in. But we're shining now. We're not sitting down for nobody, point blank period. You gonna see these legs. Okay, Kizzy, you have, your heart is so guarded because this person broke your heart in high school. You're so wounded because your mother was a monster and never loving and kind. You have this wound of rejection because your father had a family and you were the outside child. He will show you why you even have all these protective guards built up around yourself, and he's going to remove it. He's going to strip you from it because now he's going to replace it with you trusting him. He's going to, and this is all a process, right? This is years and years probably for most people, but he's going to replace all of your protective guards with you trusting him. So now it's not, so he's teaching you to trust him versus trust people. Trust him versus trust people. So now when he said you to do season, and he do bring you a new relationship, a new marriage or whatever, now you can love freely because now it's about you trusting God, knowing that if this person hurts me, God will get me through the process, not myself, not the person. God will get me through the process. So now you can love freely because you know you're depending on God. Excuse me, you're trusting God. You're relying on God versus other people or relying on yourself. So it's so much that you have to learn. So now in due season, he has the husband that you asked for or the wife that you prayed for. But in the transformation season, he had to prepare you for all that. Think about if you never went into the isolation season and he just pulled you straight from your old crazy self and threw you up into a marriage. Now, come on. Let's be honest. Let's be real. How long would that really last? So he has to prepare you for whatever you ask for. You've asked for a business. You want to be the first millionaire. You asked for your own barbershop. But were you taught financial literacy? Maybe you were, but most people were not. So he has to let you hit a bankruptcy season so you can learn to understand how certain things work. So because if you ever had it and lost it, or you're going to move a different kind of way next time you get it again. So there's so much stuff that has to happen in order to transform you, to prepare you for your destiny season. A lot of people don't make it to destiny seasons and destiny promises, right? And destiny moments because of you drop out. It's like you drop out of high school, right? You drop out of college because it's too hard. So I think this is why, in my personal opinion, visionaries have kind of a little more, because as visionaries, we can see it, right? It's so clear as day. The promises are so clear as day. We can see it. We just can't get there until we're transformed for it. But at least you know what you're working towards. So let it be a visionary or those of you who just have a clear insight. You have clear insight on what God has promised you. But there are people who really feel like they don't know what they're working towards. Do you know how difficult that has to be? You're hitting all kinds of storms. You're getting attacked, spiritual attack from left to right, and you don't even know why. Like, why am I even going through all this? But if you know what's on the other side, or you have an idea, I should say, because we don't be knowing in its entirety, but you have an idea of where God is taking you, then it makes it much more easier to stay in the fight, right? Still difficult, but at least you know what you're working towards. So a lot of the times, like I told the person who emailed me, it's not always spiritual attacks. We always want to think everything is spiritual attacks. Like, Lord, I'm under spiritual attack, Lord. And half of the time, all it is transformation. And it feels like spiritual attacks. So everything is not from the enemy. But I wanted to share that. You guys have a great one. It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.